Okay, may it be a good morning for Kallah Yisrael, for Am Yisrael, for Eretz Yisrael. It should be a good morning. It should be a good day. It should be a good week. We should have only Besoros, Tovos, Yeshuos, V'nechamos. It's good to be back in person and back finding our chizuk, our strength, insights, and perspectives for today from the Parsha. I want to thank, as always, our generous sponsors, Becky and Avi Katz and family, who sponsored the Parsha series in memory of David Grossman, Lili Nishmas, David Ben Menachem Monush. This morning's Parsha Shir is also sponsored by Rabbi and Eric Froman in commemoration of the Yahrzeit of Harold Dubot, Tzvi Hirsch Ben Yonah Dov, and by Elaine Trachtenberg, Andrew and Alan Lieberman, Dvorin Hill Lefkowitz, in memory of Chaim Tzvi Hirsch Ben Binyamin on his 10th Yahrzeit. His neshama should certainly have an aliyah. Two reminders. One is right at the end of our Parsha Shir. We'll divide up the Tehillim, and we'll finish all of Sefer Tehillim on behalf of our brothers and sisters in Israel, the IDF, who are engaged in heavy fighting right now deep in Gaza. Certainly they're in all of our thoughts and prayers, our hearts. All of the zchuyos of our learning should be in their merit. But please stay after. It'll take just a few minutes. If we divide up all of Tehillim among us, it'll go very quickly. Also, we ordered, believe it or not, it's very hard to find, but we ordered and custom-made Israeli flags to put on your car, to proudly display, to show we're not embarrassed, ashamed, hiding, afraid. They're $5. Proceeds go to the soldiers. They're available in the lobby right afterwards. So please feel free to participate in this effort. Parsha's Vayeira appears on page 78 in the Art Scroll Stone Chumash. Vayeira elav Hashem be'elonim amrei v'hu yoshet pesach ha'ol kachol hayom. Last week's Parsha, we were introduced to Avraham Avinu, and even though that was perhaps mid-story, we spoke last Shabbos morning about the episode of the Kibshon HaEsh, that Avram already endured a test even before we came to know him, when he survived the fiery furnace. Our enemies try to destroy us. All they do is give birth to a new us, a better version of us. We became a nation. We began again. They tried to incinerate and obliterate and exterminate Avram. He comes out of that fiery furnace, Lamalam and Atava. He supersedes nature. He transcends nature. He's bigger, stronger, more driven, more focused on his mission than ever. And the story continues in this week's Parsha. Avram just had his bris milah. Vayeira elav Hashem be'elonei mamrei. Hashem appears to Avram in Elonei Mamrei. I got a new sefer. Our dear teacher and friend, Rav Druck, Risha Meir Druck Shlita. We learned through his Eish Tamid for several years. He's coming out with a new series on Parsha called Lahavos Eish. Lahavos Eish is along the same lines, but a new series, a continuation of the Eish Tamid. So he quotes Rashi, Vayeira Hashem, Levakar Asachola. Why did Hashem come? Why does Hashem appear before Avram? We all know, we're all taught from a young age to visit the sick. Avram is recovering from surgery at an advanced age. The third day, the most precarious, the most painful day. So Hashem appears Levakar Asachola to visit the sick. Amar Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina, Yom Shlishi Lemilasohai. It was the third day. Uba Kadosh Baruch Hu B'Shal B'Shlamo. And Hashem came to inquire as to his well-being. Hashem came to see how he's doing. And wonders of Druck. Yesh Layin. Ma Makul Devrei Chazal Shetachlis is Galusa Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu Avram. Haisa B'Shvil Levakar Asachola. Torah just tells us that Hashem appeared before him and that Avram is sitting outside. And the next thing you know, Avram raises his eyes and sees these three, what he thinks are wanderers. Of course, we know the story, they're angels. And then the conversation with Hashem, whatever it was, is abruptly interrupted because Avram pivots and he shifts to go now practice his signature quality, Hachnasas Orchim. So why did Hashem visit? How did Chazal know? Where did they see in the Psukim that the purpose of this visit is Bikur Cholim? And moreover, Vayeira elav Levakar Asachola, Rashi says, he jumps the gun. He's going to quote Chazal, Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina, that it was the third day after surgery, and he came to ask Avram how he's doing. But Rashi jumps the gun, and before quoting Chazal says, he came to visit the sick. As it's taught, he came to visit the sick. So Rashi, what'd you add? Just quote the Chazal. He came to visit Avram and ask him how he's doing. What did Rashi add? Levakar Asachola, as it says, he came to ask him how he's doing. Hello, Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina, who's a Shamar Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's the one who taught us that. What did Rashi add? And listen to what Rav Druck says. Habir bezehu shinei kol haparshios ad ata matzina shenema vayomer Hashem al Avram Vayeira Hashem al Avram v'Hashem amar al Avram. Until now, Avram's name is used. Hashem spoke to Avram. Hashem appeared to Avram, and Hashem said to Avram, "Im kach yishlavim deima parshaseinu lashon hapasuk hu Vayeira elav." Where's Avram? The Parsha begins, and he appeared to him. Pronouns. All of a sudden we forgot names. Forgot Avram's name. Last week's Parsha, Hashem appeared to him, Hashem spoke to him, Hashem said to him, to Avram, and now Vayeira Elav Hashem. He appeared to him, Hashem. Why not say Vayeira Hashem El Avram? Why do we change to Elav instead of invoking Avram's name? So it says Rav Druck to answer all these questions. Al karchenu yesh lefarish. Ke Kadosh Baruch Hu is galal Avram machmas hayiso anak sheba anakim. Why did Hashem visit Avram? Because Avram is the big influencer. Hashem wanted to get a selfie with Avram that Avram would post on his page. He's a big influencer. Everyone would see, millions would follow. He was visiting Avram because he was the Gadol Ador, the Anak Sheba Anakim, the giant of all the giants? No. Kadosh Baruch Hu ba'elav b'chdei l'kayim mitzvahs bikar cholam u'legabe bikar cholam kulam shavim. Gadol kekatan, asher kerash. Shulchan Aruch states explicitly, in fact in Smichas Chaver, we just began a new Zman with the halachas of bikar cholam. We learned this halacha, I think it's in Shin Lamed Tes, comes from a Gemara in the Darim Daf Mem. Amarav and Amarav, minayin shashchina shruya l'mala mimitas ha'shachola, shenem Hashem yisadenu al eretz devai. The Gemara there learns a story that the great Rabbi Akiva left the Beis Medrash to go visit a Talmud. What do you mean? Let Rabbi Akiva send a shliach. Let Rabbi Akiva send a text, a WhatsApp message. Let Rabbi Akiva write a note, send a telegram. Rabbi Akiva, the great Rabbi Akiva, left the Beis Medrash to go visit a simple student. And Shulchan Aruch quotes from the Gemara in the Darim, you see that when it comes to visiting the Cholah, there is no hierarchy. There's no standing on ceremony. There's no greater and lesser. There's no superior and inferior. There's no richer and poorer. There's no smarter and less smart. Everyone's equal. Every Cholah deserves support and a visit. And in fact, it's above the head of every sick person that the presence of Hashem can be found most intensely. That is the tradition that we have. That's why you don't fulfill the mitzvah bikar cholam unless you offer a tefillah. You could give a sponge bath. You could smuggle into the hospital a pastrami on club with mustard, Russian dressing, whatever you prefer. You could mop the floor of the hospital room. You could wet the lips. You could change out the IV. But if you leave the room without saying, Yehi Ratzon, Hashem, give my good friend the refuah shlema, you've not fulfilled the mitzvah of bikar cholam. Why? Because Hashem's in that room. He's above the head. He's right there present with the sick person. And you're not going to turn to him. You're not going to ask him. You're not going to daven to him. One has to daven or you don't fulfill the mitzvah. Lefiza yesh Radak says Rav Druck, that's why Vayeira Elav Hashem, because the Torah wants to communicate to us that Hashem didn't visit because Avram is a high-profile, dignitary, prominent, prestigious person. Why did Hashem visit? Because Hashem is present at the head of every cholah. Those you've heard of and who are famous, and those you've never heard of. Hashem al Avram, ela elav. He was a pronoun, generic, ambiguous. Elav. He was elav, just a simple person. Shai cholah. Kadosh Baruch Hu magiel kol cholah. Kamochem medaktek hetev lefiza Rashi. Vayeira elav levaker es hacholah. Rashi jumped the gun before quoting Chazal to say Vayeira elav without using Avram's name. Levaker es hacholah, because Hashem does that for everybody. Oh, Chazal also tell us that Hashem knew it was the third day after Avram's bris, so he came to Avram specifically to ask how he's doing. But they're two separate statements. One is that Hashem came to Avram knowing it's Avram, and Avram gave himself a bris at an advanced age, and it was the third day, and he came. But even before then, levaker es hacholah, because a love, Hashem does that to each and every one. And so should we. Our concern and our care is not just for high-profile, famous, for those with whom we have a closest relationship. Every cholah deserves our care, our attention, our support, our love. I will tell you, having been in Eretz Yisrael and Israel for 3 days last week, we focus on casualties, 1,400, 1,500, unimaginable. Continuing to even still identify bodies and get gruesome reports. Yesterday, Am Yisrael, Kallah Yisrael learned of the fate of Luke, that young woman, German-Israeli. What happened to her, we won't even mention. But the casualties are not the only concern. Only 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 have injured. Those cholim, every one deserve our davening, our attention, our care, our love, our support. Vayeira elav. It's not just the ones who went famous, who went viral, who a video appears, but every name, Vayeira elav, every person Hashem visits, Hashem is found at the head of each and every person, and we too have to care for each and every cholah from this war and in our lives. Torah tells us what happens. Vayisa ila ina vayar Avram raises his eyes and he sees, V'nei shlosha anashim nitzavim alav. And there are three angels standing over him. He goes and he runs to greet them. From the opening of the tent where he's found. Vayishtachu arza, and bowed toward the ground. Bowed toward the ground. Okay, we got a lot to say on this pasuk. We're going to make it fit past the second pasuk, but we got a lot to say. The Igra Kallah wonders. We know that the angels each came to fulfill their own shlichus, because an angel, who's really an extension, an emissary, a spark of the Ribono Shel Olam, is how Hashem is expressing and manifesting in the world a particular purpose, a particular mission. And each one doesn't repeat. They came for that reason. So three angels, they came, destroy Sodom and tell Sarah was going to get pregnant, save Lot, and so on. So, one doubled up on their mission. The one that came to inquire as Avram's well-being, to wish him a refuah shlema, to say Mishaberach L'cholim for him, is the same angel that went to save Lot. First of all, what happened to the rule? What happened to the principle? Angels don't double up. Each one is a unique, distinct mission. Number one. Number two, why the same one who gave the refuah shlema, why not the one who came to tell Sarah she's pregnant? Moreover, when Hashem visited Avram, is there a better doctor? Every Jew wants to get into the best doctor in the world. Best hospital, the best doctor, the greatest mumcha. Jackie Mason, Olav Shalom, had his whole routine. My doctor is so good, you can never get in to see him. He had his whole routine. So there's no greater doctor in the world. The Ribono Shel Olam himself came to visit Avram. So someone else, then the angel came afterwards. First the doctor came, then the resident. The world's greatest mumcha, the world's greatest doctor came, and then the first-year medical stool. Then the kid who's taking chemistry in high school came in. Hashem himself visited Avram. Then a malach came and said, Refuah Shlema. That's going to accomplish more than Hashem accomplished. The Ribono Shel Olam came. What do you need a malach then for the refuah? So listen what the Igra the Kallah says. Says we don't really understand this section properly. Did Lot deserve to be spared or saved from Sodom? No. And we all know the story. It's further in our Parsha. Lot separates from his uncle Avram. Lot chooses to place his lot, pun intended, not with his righteous uncle Avram, but Lot puts his lot with the people of Sodom. He wants to go live in this hedonistic, morally corrupt, decadent society. That's what appeals to him. That's what he wants to be part of. That's what he lives with. So he doesn't deserve to be spared or saved. After all, that's where he put his lot. Their fate is his fate. Their consequence is his consequence. That's who we choose to live with. But what happened when Hashem said, Avram, could I possibly conceal? Could I possibly deny Avram to know what I'm going to do? What happened? When Avram heard what was going to happen to Sodom, what happened? Avram felt a great pain. Avram was agitated. You're going to destroy a whole city? How could it be? But Avram was also further, it was compounded, and my nephew Lot's among them? You're going to destroy the whole city of Sodom and Lot? Do you know what I put into that kid? I paid for his whole Jewish education. That's like $5 million. I clothed him. I sent him to camp. That's another $5 million. I had to constantly upgrade his phone. That's like another $5 million. But he said, you know what I put into this kid Lot? I educated him. I was patient with him. I taught him. I invested in him. I risked my life for him. The war, the 4 kings, the 5 kings. Avram says, I only got involved in that war to liberate my nephew. Do you know what I put in? Do you know what I risked? Do you know what I gave up for this kid Lot? And now you're going to destroy Sodom and you destroy Lot with it? I've taken him with me everywhere I went. I had to get him his own hotel room. And now he's going to get killed. Hashem didn't save Lot because of Lot. Why did Hashem save Lot? Because Avram Avinu. The same malach that was concerned with Avram's well-being, that came for the refuah shlema of the bris, is the same malach that was concerned with Avram Avinu's well-being to save Lot. They weren't two separate missions. They're not two separate purposes. They're one and the same. It's a zel bazach. Avram Avinu's well-being. Hashem loves Avram, and he's concerned about Avram. So in Avram's merit, for Avram's righteousness, he comes to heal him from his bris, and he comes to spare Lot because of what that would have done to Avram. Sometimes the person has a physical ailment. Sometimes the person is shvurei lev, has a broken heart, is brokenhearted. That's why the pasuk formulates it later. Perak Yutes, pasuk Chav Tes. Hashem remembered Avram, vayishlach es Lot. The whole effort, the whole intervention to spare Lot was not because of Lot. Lot was undeserving because Lot put his lot, his stone. Why did he do it? For Avram. And that's why it's the same malach who goes and spares both, because Lot only survives in the merit of Avram. And here too, there's a message for us. People were davening for Baruch Hashem, they're not Lot, Chalila, to put them in the same category, or to describe them that way. But you see that when we say to the Ribono Shalom, I'm not davening, and don't intervene, and don't spare, and don't care about others. They merit, they don't merit. But I'm in pain. I'm in anguish. It hurts me. My heart is broken. My heart is broken. So Ribono Shalom, whatever merit I might have, I'm cashing it in. Because my heart is broken over the thought of those young men, of those young soldiers on the front line. My heart is broken on those families who are grieving. My heart is broken over a nation and a people that are worried and anxious. So Ribono Shalom, whatever few merits, whatever zchuyos I might have, my broken heart, I'm incomplete unless they're complete. My life is interrupted as long as their life is interrupted. We see from the precedent of Lot, and that's what he talks about in the footnote here in the Amaros Tahoros, that quotes this Igra de Kallah. You see this notion of tefillah, that because why would Hashem spare somebody else because of you? We spoke about this in Siddur snippets last week or 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer wonders, how does it work? You daven for someone else who's sick, Rifa'inu. The bracha of Rifa'inu, until now we're up to Baruch Aleinu, but 2 weeks ago we're up to Rifa'inu. So you say to Hashem, Rifa'inu, Hashem b'nei Rafai. Yehiratzon, the little Yehiratzon, you can insert in the middle of Rifa'inu, you daven for the other person who's sick. Hashem says, buddy, mind your own business. When you're sick, daven for yourself. Why should I change the other person's fortune, decree, because of you? You're davening? What does one thing have to do with the other? So the Chassam Sofer references a Maharal and quotes a Rambam, that the core of davening of tefillah is that a person asks for your Shaul tzrachim shehut tzarach behen. You ask for the things, but you don't just say a script. You don't just recite a template. You don't just deliver what appears in the siddur. Shehut tzarach lehen. You have to communicate to Hashem, I need this. I'm incomplete without it. My heart is broken. Shehut tzarach lehen. When you daven for someone else, it's not just the Yetzer Zayin. I got an email, I'm on a WhatsApp group, I saw a petak hanging in the base medrash, so I daven for so-and-so. It's not just a Yetzer Zayin, I did it. It's got to be a tzarach shehu tzarach b'hem. It has to be that you genuinely say, Hashem, my heart is broken. My heart is broken and screaming out in pain. They're not my children. They're all our children. They're all our family. But it's not directly related. It's mine. I'm part of Am Yisrael. I'm part of Kallah Yisrael. We go together. Avram, Lot was spared because Avram said, this hurts me. It's got to hurt all of us. If the left foot is injured, the right foot doesn't say, I work fine. I'm good to go. The left foot is injured. The right foot says, it hurts me. I'm wobbly. I can't walk straight. We can't walk straight until everyone's home, till the captives are all home, till the soldiers are all home. We, Kallah Yisrael, can't walk straight. You see the mechanics of how this works from Avram and from Lot and from this insight. Avram raises his eyes. Vayisa einav. He raises his eyes in order to be able to see. What is this notion? Vayisa einav. So again, Rashi. Vayisa einav vayar. He raises his eyes and he sees. Ma Vayeira. Vayeira shnei pa'amim. And in this pasuk, it says Avram saw, and it uses the word Vayeira twice. Vayar. He sees 3 men. Vayar. And he sees them and he runs towards them. Okay, we got it. He saw them. He raised his eyes and he saw them. It should say, he raised his eyes, Vayar, he saw 3 men, Vayaretz lekrasam, and he ran to go greet them. Why does it have to say a second time? He raised his eyes and he saw, and he ran to greet them. What is vayar the second time? So Rashi says, Harishon kemashma, v'asheni lashon havana. First time means literally. He was looking down. He wasn't scrolling or texting, but he was looking down. V'asheni, the second time is havana. He came to understand. He saw that they were hesitating. They didn't want to bother him. And even though they saw him coming out to greet them, they remained where they were because they didn't want to disturb him. So says Rashi, Vayar twice. First, he noticed them. And the second time, he noticed about them that they weren't coming close because they didn't want to bother him. And that's why he ran to them to be able to help. Vayar twice. Back to the Lavos Eish of Druck's new sefer. He says, Vayar, why twice? The Avos, there are those people. You ever out with someone? You're at a restaurant, you're having coffee, you're trying to talk to them, and you notice they're looking around, they're taking a lot, and you're like, hi, yo, over here. You know those people? They just need to know everything going on. They're watching, they're listening, they're observing. Yentas who are just focused on everything around. So supposedly you're having coffee, supposedly you're having lunch, but you have to be like, yo, hi, over here. When you go out with them, you always have to make sure they're taking the seat facing the wall, you could face out. Strategic seating. You have to have strategic seating in the restaurant, otherwise you might as well go out by yourself. You lost them. So, says Rav Druck, the Avos were not Yentas. Gedolim are not Yentas. They're present, fully immersed and present in whatever they're doing. They're looking down. They're looking down and they're present in whatever they're doing. Histaklu b'chol eis b'mashakora ba'olam. B'chol eis hayoneim mishpolos klape mata. V'rak asher nitzorach l'daver manas hayoneim elos hadavar tamid hayoneim klape mata. They're always looking down and they're always focused. They're present, fully immersed in what they're doing. When do they look up? When there's a reason to look up. When there's something to notice. So your head's in the Gemara, somebody's standing opposite you, you look up and you greet them. There's a reason to look up. They're not yentas that need to follow everything in the world. They look up when they need to look up. So Avraham Avinu, Vayisa Avraham Aseina Vayar. Vayisa Avraham Aseina Vayar. Right, when do we have it? Vayisa Avraham Aseina Vayar Samako Merachok. Later, the Akedah. Vayisa Avraham Aseina Vayar Vinei Ayel. Then he looks up and he sees there's a ram. Yitzchak. Vayitza Yitzchak Lasuch Basada. Vayisa Eina Vayar Vinei Gmalim Ba'im. He goes in the field and he's davening. So when he's davening, he's not who Shemona Esrei is longer, who said Yalav Yavo already 3 seconds before I took my third step forward, who's the Chazan from Musaf, who's that? No, he's davening. He only noticed because he lifted his eyes. Yaakov Avinu similar. So when it comes to the Avos, it never tells us they saw. It tells us they lifted their eyes and they saw. Why? Because they weren't yentas. They weren't looking around all the time. They weren't distracted by the world. They were focused. They were present. They were mindful. They were immersed in wherever they were. So much so that when there was something to see, Vayisei, first they had to lift their eyes in order to be able to see. So now, Lefizeh, says Druck, according to this, the Torah is coming to teach us, Avraham Avinu samach b'mitzvah shenizdamna liyadu la'areach orchim. Avraham Avinu is very happy. Wow. Avraham Avinu, nothing makes him happier than hosting guests. And when he saw that they weren't coming, miyad vayar tzlikrasam. So says Rav Druck, you're reading the pasuk wrong. It doesn't repeat the word vayar twice. He lifted his eyes and he saw them. He saw them and he ran towards them. No, he lifted his eyes and he saw them. Vayar tzlikrasam. He didn't move his eyes off of looking at them the whole time he ran towards them. They now became his new focus. A moment ago, he was looking down in the Gemara, but once he saw them, vayaratz lekrasam, now he ran while looking at them the same time. So says Rav Druck, in the way of Gedoli Yisrael, in the way of the Gedoli Ha'avos, they were not yentas looking all over. They were always fully present, focused, whatever they were meant to be doing right then. So Vayar, first it means he lifted his eyes. I have an opportunity. Now, as he ran, Vayar again, this is all he saw. Whatever he was meant to be doing, that's all he saw. You go to the park, somebody's pushing their children, their grandchildren on the swing while they're scrolling, while they're texting. They're not there. They're absent present, not the avos. Vayisa vayat. No, when you're on the swing, you're pushing the kid. When you're on the floor playing with the child, you're playing with the child. When you're at the Parsha shir, you're at the Parsha shir. Whatever we're doing, we're fully immersed in what we're doing, to the point that vayisa vayat. You'd have to lift our eyes in order to be able to shift us, in order to be able to see. Vayisa einav. You have to lift the eyes. Okay. The Ramban understands, same pasuk, Vayisa einav. Tam nitzavim alav. It's a very funny lashon in this pasuk. He lifts his eyes and he sees the three men are nitzavim. What word is peculiar in this pasuk? They are nitzavim alav. What are they, standing on his head? Sitting on his shoulders? Alav means on him. What is the word vanitzavim alav? Standing over him. Leave out the word. We would have understood the pasuk the same way. Vayisayin, he lifted his eyes. Vayeira nisav v'nish l'shanashim nitzavim. Can leave out the word nitzavim too. What do we care about their posture? He lifted his eyes and he saw that there were three men. Vayar tzlikrasam, and he ran to go greet them. So the Ramban understands tam nitzavim alav shayu omdim lenegdo mistaklim lefishu yoshe v'hem hayu omdim v'rombo amar alav. Says the Ramban, it's descriptive. You know, a good author who draws you into a novel, the more adjectives, the more they depict the scene, the more they draw you into what was happening, the more connected you feel. So it says the Ramban, the Torah is trying to paint the picture. Wants you to understand the scene. Avraham is sitting. He's in recovery. He's recovering from the surgery. They just walked up. They're standing. So nitzavim alav, they're standing and looking. Avraham is sitting. So it says they stood over him. They want to see Avram's looking. Oh, welcome. Shalom aleichem. He's sitting and he sees them. They're standing. That's all. That's the Ramban. Rashi understands they were standing not over Avraham, but alav is an expression of respect to the malachim. Why? Alav means they're superior. Human beings are fallible. Human beings have bechira chavshus. We have free will. Human beings make mistakes. Human beings are mahalchim. Malachim are umdim. Malachim are perfect. So in that sense, they're nitzavim alav. Says Rashi, the malachim stand over him in the sense that to a degree, they're superior. It's respect. Show respect. Alav, over him. The Radak and the Seforno explain, the angels stood still. They were looking and waiting for instructions from Avram what to do next. So they show up. V'nitzavim alav, they're standing over him silently, waiting. No, say something. What's next? Where does the story go? Seforno writes, Ki amamtinim etzel adam l'daber imo yikru nitzavim alav. You know, if you're ever trying to get someone's attention, they're looking down at their phone, they're looking down, their eyes are immersed in the Gemara, and you're trying to get their attention, you're nitzavim alav. You're standing there over them, waiting for the person to look up and engage you. So a lot of different interpretations of what nitzavim alav means. But I want to share with you from the Shevet Ephraim. My friend Rabbi David Silverberg quoted this. Who was the Shevet Ephraim? Rabbi Ephraim Wald of Satmar, the Shevet Ephraim. And he says a very, very powerful and important idea. He says the following. There's a concept in social psychology that works as follows. A person is driving on the highway, and there's a car accident. But someone keeps driving. You didn't call the police. You're walking to shul, and there's garbage in the path. There's garbage in the parking lot. What did you do? Keep walking. Don't bend down and pick it up. Whole shul says, we need a volunteer. Who's willing to? The Shiva Minyan short too. Can anyone please go? Everyone looks down. Why does that happen? Well, why didn't someone pick up the phone and call the police? Why don't you pick up the garbage? Why don't you volunteer? So it's called in social psychology diffusion of responsibility, or they call it the bystander effect. Sometimes it happens in large groups, sometimes it's a committee, but when it's more than one person, everyone assumes someone else will take care of it. Someone else is running with it. Someone else will do it. It's a very dangerous phenomenon. It leads to groupthink and disengagement or risk-taking behavior because the whole committee just assumes it's someone else's problem. Someone else will do it. Someone else will take the responsibility. Says the Shevet Ephraim. What does it mean? They're nitzavim alav. What does it mean that they're standing over him? Why doesn't it say they were standing lefanav, before him? What is alav, over him? Because Avraham Avinu never was compromised. Avraham Avinu never was vulnerable to the phenomenon of the diffusion of responsibility or the bystander effect. Avraham Avinu felt whatever task there is to get done, nitzavim alav. It's weighing on him. It's standing on him. It's for him to do. Avraham Avinu knew how to take achrayus. He didn't point fingers. He didn't assign or delegate. He didn't wait for others. He didn't assume someone else would do it. Whatever task there was to get done, whatever responsibility there was, it was nitzavim alav. It was on his shoulders. It was standing over him. He's sitting at Pesach HaOel. The Shevet Ephraim understands what is Pesach HaOel. It means the beginning of his spiritual journey. Avram is humble and modest. He sees himself and his purpose of being of service to others. So what happens? He jumps up to get involved. Why does he jump up to help? Because it's nitzavim alav. This is his job. It's his achrayus. It's his responsibility. It is sitting on him. It's weighing on him. It's weighing on him. That's the attitude that we have to have. There's a cholah that needs to be visited. There's an avel that needs nechama. There's money that's needed to be raised for displaced people in Israel. It's not someone else's problem. Don't wait for someone else to collect the supplies or pack the duffels or schlep them to the airport. It's on each and every one of us. We are the progeny of Avraham Avinu, and to be the children of Avraham Avinu means to know how to take achrayus. Means to know how to live with a sense of nitzavim alav. It's weighing on me. I'm not waiting for someone else. Jump up, jump in, say alai, acharai. It's on me. Follow me. I got it. Avraham Avinu is teaching us, and that is part of the legacy that he leaves us and gives us to be the children. The Bnei Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov is to know how to live with an attitude of nitzavim alav. No bystander effect, no diffusion of responsibility, no waiting for someone else to do it. You walk by garbage, you pick it up. You saw something, you need to call the police. Someone needs a visit or support. Here I am, hineni, as we see from Avraham Avinu later in the Parsha as well. What does Avraham Avinu offer them? What does he offer them? He says, Yukachna ma'at mayim, pasuk daled. Please take some water. Yukachna ma'at mayim. Take some water. Brachatzu raglechem, and wash your feet. V'yishanu tachas ha'etz, and lean against the tree. V'ekcha pas lachem v'sadu libchem achar tavoru, and I'll go get a meal for you. In the meantime, we'll get you all situated. We'll get you all set. So what's the first thing that Avraham Avinu does? Have a little water. Why? Brachatzu raglechem, and wash your feet. Why a little water? Wonders of Druck back in Mahavoseish. Rashi tells us, Brachatzu raglechem. What was the purpose of the water? Was this like COVID was spreading? So he was Purell, put on your mask, Purell your hands, don't come in my tent until you test. Are you vaccinated? Well, why is he giving out water? Yukachna mad mayim, Zakt Rashi, Kasavar shehem aravim, shemishtachem la'avak ragleihem, v'hikpid shalolikanis avodah lebeso. He thought these were Arab nomads, wanderers, idolaters, and he said, don't come into my tent with your idolatry, wash that idolatry off your feet. Okay? So, first of all, what a very powerful image. Avraham Avinu, the same person who's about to daven for Sdom. Avraham Avinu is the king of Achnasas Orchim, welcomes all guests. Jewish, non-Jewish, recognizes them, they're complete strangers. But what does he not do? Despite this incredible love, generosity, selflessness, he does not risk compromising his own home. So he says, I love you, I welcome you, I want you, but you got to leave the Avodah Zarah at the door. Wash off the Avodah Zarah. Don't bring the images, the icons, the ideas, the influences into my house. Leave it outside. You're welcome. You're invited to the shul, to my home, into our schools. But the influences, the images, the icons, the idolatry, wash it off. You got to wash it off. You can't bring it in. So lest we think that Avram is just extreme welcoming, it also is tempered by a healthy balance of you got to wash off the foreign influence before you come in. But wonders Rav Druck here in his Lavoseish. We know when it comes to Achnasas Orchim, is Avram stingy? Everything Avram does, he does how? B'shefa, generously, in abundance. Ela bakar rata Avram vayikach ben bakar rach v'tov. The Gemara says we have 3 lashonos of chardal. He gave 3 types of tongue and mustard. Happens to be, I don't eat tongue. I have a policy. I don't taste anything that tastes you back. You see that tongue, you see the taste buds. You ever see tongue, the taste buds? It looks, I don't need anything that still looks like the way it looked when it was on the animal. Okay, that's my hang up. My wife loves tongue. So the people who love tongue, honey mustard tongue, tongue with mustard, it's a real delicacy. If you really love the guest for Yontif, you splurge, tongue. If you really love me, pastrami, corned beef. If you really love me, I'll give you a whole list of other things. But anyway, Avraham Avinu was a tongue guy. So the Malachim were tongue people. So what does the pasuk describe? Ooh, in abundance. Not one tongue, not half a tongue, not the tongue on sale, not the tongue in the freezer. 3 types of mustard tongue. He shechted 3. How do you get 3 tongues? You didn't find a cow that had 3 tongues. If you have 3 tongues, what does it mean? Shechted 3 animals. Avraham Avinu is incredibly generous, magnanimous. Everything is in abundance, except for when it came to the water to wash off the avodah zarah. Yukach na ma'at mayim, a shtickle, a bissel, a little bit of water. All of a sudden he became stingy. All of a sudden he holds back. So it says Rav Druck, Avram chasher b'hem she'im mishtachem l'avak ragleim. Such a beautiful idea. You know, we sometimes think that if you're going to transfer, you're going to purge avodah zarah, you're going to get rid of those foreign ideas and influences and thoughts. We're going to purge, we're going to kasher ourselves, we're going to become more pure in our worship and our service of Hashem. It's going to take an enormous amount. You know what it takes? Ma'at mayim. To get rid of all that avodah zarah, it can get washed off with a little bit of water. Ma'at mayim. He doesn't say it here, but I'll add, Ein mayim ella Torah. Chazal tells us Ein mayim ella Torah. So maybe yukachna ma'at mayim, to get rid of even a whole lot of avodah zarah, go wash it away with even a little bit of Torah. Sitting in the Beis Medrash for 1 hour, you could cleanse and purge all those contaminating ideas. A lifetime of mistakes, of confusion, of idolatry, a little bit of Torah. Yukachna ma'at mayim ein mayim ela Torah. Maybe it only takes a little bit. Just takes a little bit. Then he goes on, he has another explanation. But I want to share with you something else. Rashi, the Chizkuni says, Yukachna ma'at mayim. When did this happen? Rashi says it's to get rid of the avodah zarah. The Chizkuni has a different interpretation. Chizkuni writes, this all occurred during the season of the desert winds, known as the Sharaf. Hashem made that day incredibly hot, so the feet of the travelers would be soaked in sand and sweat. So this had nothing to do with avodah zarah. The Chizkuni understands kipshuto. They came in, their feet were sweaty, disgusting. Sand was sticking to their sweaty feet. I was in Ofakim last week, the south of Israel. It's almost November. It was hot as anything. Where Avraham Avinu was sitting, it was a sauna. So Yukach Na'amat Mayim was, here's a hose, rinse your feet off. Sarah doesn't like it when the guests get the carpet dirty. So I don't want to get in trouble with Sarah. In a minute we'll see. Everything she tells me I have to listen to. One of the things she told me is you could have all those guests, make sure they wipe their feet at the door. So Yukach Na'amat Mayim is, there's a little mat, wipe your feet at the door. Azayzak the Chizkuni. Rashi quotes the Gemara Bab Metzia, Pevav, Shehem Arvim, Shemishtachim Lavak Ragleim, and so on. Shlah Kadosh and Torah or wonders. What kind of idolatry is this? Shemishtachavim La'avak Ragleim. Here's a little water, wash off your feet, because these are idolaters. And what's their form of idolatry? What do they worship? Avak means the dust of Ragleim. Now, you're not allowed to worship anything but Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the omnipotent, all-powerful, only. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It's ridiculous to worship anything. I don't understand even the Havamina, to worship the sun, the moon, and the stars, to worship celebrities and athletes, to worship money and power. We don't even begin to understand it, but maybe a little bit. But to worship dust of the ground, dust of the feet, what kind of worship is that? So I saw Rav Shaul Alta, the Ger Rosh Hashiva, who Amir Hashem. Mark your calendar. 1 week from last night, Monday night, November 6th, the Ger Rosh Hashiva is coming. It's a tish for men, 8:30. Ger Rosh Hashiva, very special, very wonderful. It's coming. He'll be here, right in the spot, in person, next Monday night. He quotes the Divrei Yechezkel. The Divrei Yechezkel is the Shin of a Rav. And he says, not only is it not lunacy, not only is it not absurd, not only is it not ridiculous, we all worship the same Avodah Zarah. Holy Shinover, we worship the same Avodah Zarah. I never took off my shoes and bowed down to them. I never took the map filled with dust and started worshiping it. What does it mean? Says the Shinover, the Divrei Yechezkel. These idolaters were merchants, business people. They traveled and they ran around and they did business, selling their wares, growing customers, marketing. They were constantly on the run, constantly full of activity, constantly busy. Do you know what it means that they bowed down to Avak Ragleim? It means they worshipped at the altar of busyness. They constantly needed to feel busy, running, doing, going. They were worshiping their own effort, worshiping their own initiative, worshiping their own kochi v'otzim yadi. They were obsessed and addicted to running around, to staying busy. They were always kicking up the dust. Just sit. Yerushalmi says, he doesn't quote this, but the Yerushalmi says that Talmidei Chachamim are b'bechina Shabbos all week long. The righteous, they look like Shabbos all week. What does that mean? It means we, all week long, we're running, going, doing. Shabbos, we sit, we breathe, we can experience serenity and peacefulness. Me'ein olam haba. But the Talmid Chacham, the righteous, they're able to the entire week. This connects to what we saw about Avraham, Vayeira. The Talmid Chacham, the righteous, they're calm, they're serene, they're tranquil. They're not running, busy. Whatever they're doing is what they're meant to be doing in that moment, calmly, serenely. But we, many of us, we're running, busy. We're worshiping at the altar of our effort, of our initiative, of kicking up dust, of thinking that our success directly correlates to our activity. You know why I do well? You know why I was successful? Because I was so busy. Business today is a commodity. You meet people, you say, how are you? Before the war. How are you? How am I? Crazy busy. Psycho busy. Insanely busy. Well, you must be important, you're busy. You must be special, you're busy. You must be superior because you're so busy. We think busyness is a commodity. What's really the best and the holiest to say, how are you doing? Peaceful. Managing. Fully present in whatever I'm doing. That's what's more impressive. How are you doing? I'm great. I'm fully present in this conversation with you. Are you crazy busy? No. I do what I need to get done, and I'm fully present in whatever it is at that moment. And whatever happens is up to Hashem. My success, my productivity, we confuse. We confuse busyness with productivity. Being super busy does not equal being super productive. But we are a generation addicted to and worshiping busyness. Kicking up the dust, that's idolatry. People tie their self-worth to how busy they are. Crazy busy, psycho busy, insanely busy, so busy. I don't sleep. Do you know how little I sleep? Are we supposed to be impressed by that? That's not impressive. That means you don't have your life all together. Get it together and get enough sleep. And you'll be more productive, less busy and more productive. Avraham says to his guests, Rachatzu raglechem. Wash your feet. Stop kicking up so much dust. Stop being so busy and be more productive. But the Ger Rosh Hashiva, Rav Shaul Alter Shlita adds, the Mishnah in Avos, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Dalet says, Yossi ben Yoezer ish treda omer, Yibeischa beizvad lechachamim. Our home should always be open to great chachamim like the Ger Rosh Hashiva. V'avimisabeg ba'afar raglayim. And sit in the dust of their feet. V'avishosa b'tzamez devreim. Why did Chazal specifically draw the image, the picture of sit at the dust of their feet? Make your home welcoming and open. Our community, Baruch Hashem, welcomes tremendous, righteous men and women, Talmidei Chachamim, scholars. We invite them, we welcome them, and then we sit at the dust of their feet. And we drink in their words with thirst. Simple understanding is that the Rabbi, the teacher, used to sit in a chair. Students would sit at the floor. So you were at the dust of their feet. But then the Mishnah, why didn't the Mishnah say so explicitly? Connect. Making yourself dusty with the dust of their feet means sit at their feet and learn. Go to every shir, every opportunity. So based on the Shinover, the Divrei Yechezkel, Rav Shaul Alter suggests maybe the Mishnah means if you're going to attach yourself to busyness, let it be noble activity and movement. If you're going to not be sleeping, let it be because you're working on behalf of the Matzav and Eretz Yisrael day and night. If you're going to be running and kicking up dust, Be kicking up the dust of repairing the world, redeeming the world, making the world a better place, caring about others. Don't kick up dust because you're trying to earn more money, own more things. Nothing wrong with that. Do well and enjoy the things that Hashem has given us. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to be kicking up dust, if you're going to worship at the altar of being busy, make your living, but kick up dust and be busy with the afar ragleim of running to the next year, the next chesed opportunity, the next volunteering, the next how we can influence the matzav in Eretz Yisrael. So what's the antidote to worshiping the altar of busyness? Says the Shinover. Where did Avram tell him to go? Yukach namat mayim. It just takes a little Torah, in mayim el Torah. Wash off all that avodah zarah. Wash off the busyness and kicking up dust. And where should you go? V'hishanu tachas ha'etz. And go sit, lean on the tree. What's a tree? Eitz chayimi l'machazikim ba. The tree of Torah. You want to be busy with something? Be busy with Torah. Be busy with Torah. Be busy with Torah. That's your job. Hashem wants you to be successful, you'll be successful. Stop being so busy. V'yishanu tachas ha'etz. Which eitz? Which tree? Eitz chayim l'machazikim ba. The tree of Torah, the tree of Yiddishkeit. That should be our only form and our only sense of busyness. What an incredible shinover. What a beautiful insight of the Geri Rosh Hashiva on the shinover. Soloveitchik says, Yukach namad mayim. We're looking at the Rav Chumash. The cruelty of stone is portrayed in terms of cruelty to guests and strangers. In contrast, Avram's kindness expressed itself particularly in Hachnasas Orchim. There are many ways to practice kindness. Why is Hachnasas Orchim, welcoming guests, so emphasized here? So says Rav Soloveitchik, Hachnasas Orchim is often for the poor. A rich man is in no need of hospitality. He can find an inn or a place to stay. Hachnasas Orchim differs from tzedakah or material help to others in a crucial way. Giving tzedakah demonstrates sympathy. Hachnasas Orchim demonstrates full human equality. The belief that every being has dignity and is just as important as any other. It's much easier to give someone money and send them away than invite him under your own roof. If I invite him in, it means no matter what the situation in life, I'm treating him with respect as an equal. Hachnasas Orchim is symbolic of our personal relationship, the understanding that all Jews are b'nei malachim, princes, regardless of differences of wealth or knowledge. That's why the Torah gives us this picture of Avram. We know that Avram he fulfills the bracha of Hashem, he becomes very wealthy. But it doesn't say Avraham Avinu was a big veer. He sat and he wrote checks, and the line went out of his tent, and he just wrote checks. It was a big veer. The Rav says, it specifically tells us Avraham Avinu, Hachnasas Orchim. Because writing checks, that's easy. If you have the money, it's easy. It's not so easy. There's plenty of people who have the money, they'll give you the kidney before they'll give you a check for money. Not so easy for some. Not so easy for some. But it's easier. It's easier to write a check and give money than say, is your guest room available? Do you clean the sheets and have a towel? Can you put out food? I tell you, we have 1,000 families in our shul. And sadly, you know how much we struggle for our hospitality committee to get people who say, when you get a call, I have a room. I have a seat at my table. It's a small nucleus of incredible people who every time say, sure, happy to host anyone. Sure, happy to have them for a meal. Say, will you sponsor a meal? There's people who've relocated from the south, from the north. Sure, how much? Here's my credit card number. Will you host someone? I would, I could, I can't, I want, I won't. All of a sudden it becomes much harder. So Avraham Avinu, we celebrated for his Hachnasas Orchim, because that's the chesed where you really have to be selfless. And that's the chesed where you're really making other people feel they're your equal. Equal seat at the table, equal presence and opportunity in the home at your house. They're described as a Canaan Ba'abayamim. We'll skip this one, the Lavos Eish. Rashi quotes 2 sides of a coin were minted, the young Avram and Sarah, and the other, the older Avram and Sarah. Why was the minted coin their young age and their older age? What does that mean? We'll come back to, I guess, next year. Perak Yutes Pasuk Yud Zayin. Moving far along, we're skipping. Stone is destroyed. I was thinking about it. I'm going to write my article. Stone is destroyed. Avraham Avinu teaches us the righteousness of standing up for someone, for something, to protest, to object. You see what's happening on college campuses. Where are all the people who started the Me Too movement? Where are all the people with Black Lives Matter? Where are the people who supposedly stand up for underdogs, who stand for justice? Where are all these movements and the hashtags? as Jews on college campuses have to hide in their... I want to know what the world would do if black students were told that the Black Student Center is being closed down because we can't protect you there, and black students are being warned, stay in your room. What would happen if LGBT students were told the LGBT Student Center is closed because we can't protect you? What would happen on Cornell and Cooper Union and Columbia and Harvard? What would the world reaction be? What would the messaging out of the what would it be if black students, gay students, what would happen if Muslim students were told the Muslim Student Center is being closed because we can't protect you, and Muslim students stay in your room because we're worried for you to go out? You tell me what the world would look like. It'd be turned upside down. But for the Jew, the press conference, we put out a press release, criticize anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, all forms of hate. It's scary. It's very scary. It's very scary. But I have to tell you, it's also a powerful message to us. How many of us, when others were being hated, raise our voice? While we are the target and the victim, and the painful silence and indifference of too many in the world should also remind us that the next time there are other victims, we should raise our voice. You know, yesterday I came out of my house, and the landscaper was cutting the lawn in front of my house, and on his lawnmower were Israeli flags. Now again, Montoya Circle, it's not super courageous to have Israeli flags on your lawnmower. You know, he's cutting all of his customers, our block. But he's not, my landscaper is not Jewish. I'm fairly confident. But you know what? For a minute, I was like, wow, thank you. I want to give him a hug. It means something. Are we willing to fly the flag, literally or figuratively, of other peoples when they are targeted? The experiencing we're going through right now should also remind us next time someone else is hurting that we, the Jewish people, should be the most vocal in flying a flag. I'm not even giving a description of who they are, who they were, who they will be, whoever they are. Unfortunately, in this world, that opportunity will present itself. If we're really the progeny of Avraham Avinu, even if they're Stone, we should speak up on their behalf. Because Avraham protests even for the people of Stone. You don't have to read my article. I just practiced it on you. That's what I'm going to... If I have a few minutes, that's what I want to write. Parak Yud Tes, Pasuk Yud Zayin, 1917. So Stone is destroyed. Move over to Parak Yud Tes. Lot is saved. And when Lot is saved, he's told, Al tabit acharecha, don't look back. V'al ta'amod b'chol ha'kikar, hara mihalei pentisateh. Don't look back, don't turn around, flee the mountain, lest you be swept away. Why can't he turn around? Al tabit, don't look back. Why not? And what happens to his wife? She turns into a pillar of salt. So in Lavos Eish, Rav Druck says, Madu Eishes Lot Sheibit L'achara Nasa B'kach, V'tabed Ishta Me'acharav V'tihin Nitziv Melach. Rashi says, Shekimtza V'lo Hivia Melach L'orchem. You know why she turned into a pillar of salt? Because she was cheap and stingy. And when the guest said, can I have a little salt? Nah, not sharing my salt with you. Maybe she was insulted that her food needed salt. It's always not so pashut. How do you sneak a little salt without whoever made the food noticing? Unless you're the chef, then you can put salt in whatever you want because you made the food. That's one of the kindnesses a hostess can do. They could say, you know, the soup could use a little salt. I'm adding, anyone else could add too. Even then, it's not wise if you're married to the hostess to... You say, no, it's delicious, it's perfect. It doesn't need anything. I'll take it just the way it is. So Aisha's Lot wouldn't share her salt. So she turned into a pillar of salt because she wouldn't share her salt. Azay Zakt Rashi. But says Rav Druck and others, you know why she turned into a pillar of salt when you turn around? What does salt do? It's a preservative. Salt is a preservative. It preserves, it freezes, it makes stay exactly at that moment. So when Lot's wife turns around, what is she looking at? She says, I want to be with the people of Stone. I had good times in Stone. A lot of nostalgia about Stone. I love Stone. Stone is where I'm from. Stone is who I am. I miss Stone. What happened? You miss Stone? You're nostalgic for Stone? Stone is where you're from and who you are? You're now a pillar of salt. You are now permanently sealed with Stone. You are preserved through salt with Stone. That's one interpretation. But Rav Druck has another interpretation. And he says, when you survive destruction, when a person survives destruction, they need to not look back and get stuck at what happened. They need to forge forward and rebuild what needs to be built. When one suffers destruction, they should learn from it, they should grieve and mourn it, but not perseverate on it and get stuck in it, because you need to rebuild. The Tripp family had nufra for Jonah a few weeks ago, and it was tough to make a simcha during this trying time. But Benji spoke. His parents were survivors. And he mentioned, I had never heard this theory before. Many survivors didn't share their story for not years, decades. They didn't share it with their children. They only would share it with their grandchildren. Why was that? There are a lot of theories. They didn't want to deposit it onto the second generation. There's a lot of theories. He offered an interesting theory. And his theory was, until they secured a future, survivors weren't ready to talk about the past. So it took 30 or 40 or 50 years. And their children weren't enough. Until it could be a grandchild they were telling the story to, they knew there was a continuity and there was a future. Until they knew and saw a future, they couldn't even talk about or address or focus on the past. And says Rav Druck, that's what's going on here. Stone went up in flames, stone was destroyed. But before you turn around, before you get stuck looking at and thinking about the past, the destruction that you endured, turn to the future, build that future. What's the next chapter? What's the next phase? October 7th, we'll never forget. We're constantly looking back at. There's a lot to look at. I just saw today online, they produced a map of October 7th, where you can go see all the cities, and there's a dot for every casualty. You could see exactly how far they went. It's haunting, haunting, haunting. We'll never forget October 7th. But you hear the army, you hear the prime minister, you hear what comes out of Israel. We'll never forget October 7th, but right now we're looking forward to getting rid of the perpetrators who did it, to the next chapter of Kallah Yisrael, of Achdus and Emunah, to come together, to bring Mashiach. We don't forget the past, but we don't get stuck turning around. We don't get stuck looking behind us. We have to forge forward the next chapter and what's next. Sarah Imenu gives Avraham a message, and Hashem tells Avraham, everything Sarah tells you, listen to her voice. Although the Torah and certainly the Medrash provide extensive information about the Avos, the Imos role is more obscure. In fact, however, Sarah was an equal partner with Avram in the covenant. Rashi here comments that Avram was actually inferior to Sarah with respect to prophecy. When Hashem informed Avram that Sarah was to bear him a son, he said, but Aval, your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you'll name him Yitzchak, and I'll establish my bris with him. The key emphasis is on the word Aval, but, which follows a reference to the fact that Avram already had a son from another wife. But Aval, he's told, he will not be the son to continue his legacy. The covenant continues specifically through Yitzchak, because Yitzchak emerged from both Avram and Sarah. There can be no covenant without Sarah. There is no covenant without Sarah. Sarah is Avram. Sarah is Avram. There is no Avram without Sarah. In fact, we know from next week's Parsha that once Sarah dies, there is no. The Rav writes, it's interesting that although Avram survived Sarah by 38 years, his historical role came to an end with Sarah's passing. Yitzchak leaves the stage together with Rivka. Yaakov relinquishes his role to Yosef with the untimely death of Rachel. Without Sarah, there is no Avram. No Yitzchak if not Rivka. No Yaakov without Rachel. The Avos are insignificant. They become invisible once they lose the Imahos. Who's the strength? It's the Imahos. It's the Imahos. And don't tell me this is apologetics. We're the farthest thing from a misogynistic people. The Torah has an enormous gender bias. It's just biased against the men. Because the Torah tells us over and over how pathetic men are if not for their wives. 38 years Avram lives without Sarah, but you don't hear anything from him. He disappears from the stage of history. Because it's the schus of the Nashim Tzidkanios. When we sat with the community last week of Shlomit, of Chalutza, who've been displaced to Gush Etzion, they talked about even the warriors who grabbed their gun to go fight, to save their yeshuv and others, they talked about their wives. It was all their wives who were the strength. Their wives who watched the children. Their wives who went to the safe rooms. Their wives who themselves took up a gun to protect their family. It was the schus nashim tzidkanios. It is the wives. And that's kol asher tamar l'chasara. Anything Sarah says, shma b'kolah, listen to her, because Sarah is the one. Sarah is the one. Akedah, we didn't even get to the Akedah. The end of the Parsha. Hashem calls Avram, Vayomer Hineni. And the answer is Hineni. Here I am. Vayomer Hineni. Here I am. But twice. Perach Chav Beis Pasuk Aleph. Chav Beis Aleph. Vayarach Advar Ma'ila V'Elokim Nisas Avram. And it was after these things that Hashem tested Avram. Vayomer Elav Avram. Vayomer Hineni. He called Avram and he said, here I am. Now later he's going to call him Avram. So why here does he call him Avram once? And later he's going to call him Avram. Why twice? We have time for one last thought? Okay, one last thought. So Rav Nachman, the holy Rav Nachman writes, Avram gets older. Yitzchak is born to him. Hashem turns to him and he says, I got one last test for you. The 10th test, the greatest of all the tests. Why is this test introduced? Achar hadvarim ha'ela. And it's like the narrator. The narrator of the Chumash fills in and says, and it was, just picture the narrator's voice. And it was after these things. And then the story turns to, and Hashem calls Avram and he says, Hineni, and he tells him, why do you need a narrator? All of a sudden the Torah has a narrator between scenes. Vahi achar advarim ha'ela. And it was after these things. Says Rav Nachman, L'chol echad echad yesh zmanim kashim lefamim. Everyone has difficult times. Sometimes a person feels, achar advarim ha'ela. I'm done. After these things, I'm done. I'm finished. I'm toast. I'm spent. I'm exhausted. I got nothing left. I feel like I'm in a tkufa of achar hadvarim ha'ela. Person goes through a challenge, a suffering, a loss, an anguish, a crushed dream. Person's tired. They're just older. They're tired. A person could be in a stage of life, says Rav Nachman, a stage of life of achar hadvarim ha'ela. After all this, after all these things, I'm done. So Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moran Chelik Aleph Siman Ayin Vav, again, this is from the Sefer Shulchan HaShabbos. He didn't say it explicitly on the Parsha, but it's derived from the teachings of Rabbi Nachman on the Parsha. Person lives then with mochen dekatness. Mochen dekatness means very small mind, small vision. Person retreats and recoils into a small sense of self, small emuna. Achar advar ma'ila. I'm crushed, tired, I'm exhausted, I'm spent. I got nothing left to dream and to have vision and to go change the world. V'elokim nisa. But it's in those moments that Elokim nisa is milosha nes and degel. The word nisa, the same word for test, also means, a nes means a banner. A nes is a flag. Tka b'shovar gadol l'chei risainu v'sa nes. What does it mean v'sa nes? It doesn't mean a miracle. What does a nes mean? A banner, a flag. Tzarech l'romim l'agbias hateva shebegematria Elokim. Ve'zeh usu be'emtzaos es Avraham. Tahainu midas Avram Avinu she midas chesed. Vayi achar dvarim ha'ela. When we feel like I'm crushed, I'm spent, I'm exhausted, I got nothing left, I'm done. V'y Elokim gematria is teva. Nisa, you got to lift the banner of what? Es Avram, the Avram in you. Magain Avram, we make a bracha every day. B'chach chosman, we invoke Yitzchak and Yaakov, but Hashem sealed the Avram in us. Magain Avram. There is a piece of Avram in each and every one of us. We have the ability, like Avram, that even after Achar Dvarim Ha'ela, we can raise the banner. We're not done. We're not finished. We're not finished. We're not complete. There's more to do. There's more to do. How do you do it? What was the midah of Avram? Chesed. If we turn outward and we do and we care for others, we'll find in ourselves mochen de gadlus, not katnus. We're not finished. We're not done. We're not retired. Our best is yet to come. We're just getting started. There's so much more. There's so much more to impact the world. There's more for us to do. And how does Avram? A moment ago, it says, Vayi achar dvar ma'ila. A moment ago, it's after all these things, and now it's hineni. Avram says, I thought I was spent. I thought I was exhausted. I thought I was retired. I thought I was done. I thought my book was complete. But he went from an achar dvar ma'ila to a sense of hineni. Here I am. What needs to be done? Let's get it done. We didn't answer. First he calls Vayomer Elav, Avram. He calls him once Avram, but later when the angel calls, it says Vayikra, he calls him Avram. Why does he say his name twice later? And here the introduction to the Akedah, he says his name once. I guess we'll leave that in Mitzvah Hashem for next year. Tomorrow we have Mesilas Yesharim and Living with Emunah. Until next time, may we hear Yeshuas v'Nechamos. Mashiach should come, Keheref Ayin. Don't forget, please stay for Tehillim. We're going to complete all Tehillim. 30 people stay. It'll take 5 minutes. Each person takes that day. If you want to get a flag for your car, $5 proceeds go to the IDF.